accelerate the science and research efforts so as to provide sound support to win the battle against the COVID-19. Premier Li Keqiang has also explicitly pointed out that the key points should be focused on highly effective diagnostic reagents, effective drugs, and effective vaccines are the areas where we should make further breakthroughs. Today, we will focus on the latest progress of science and research efforts. We have with us Director General Wu Yuanbing from the Social Science Development Department of Ministry of Science and Technology, Madam Sun Yanrong, the Deputy Director of the Biocenter of the Ministry of Science and Technology, Director Zheng Zhongwei from National Health Commission, Academician Zhou Qi from the China Academy of Science, Academician Cheng Jing from China Academy of Engineering Science, to take questions on the drug and the vaccine development and progress. We also have with us from Beijing Medical Equipment Supervision Institute Senior Engineer Madam Qiu Weihua and Madam Zhao Yangyu, the Obstetric Department Director of the No. 3 Hospital affiliate to Peking University. Some updates on the epidemic in the 24 hours of the March the 5th. Among all the provinces and the Xinjiang Production Construction Corp, new confirmed cases 143, new deaths 30, including 29 from Hubei, 1 from Hainan, new suspected cases 102. Newly cured and discharged from hospitals 1,681. Of medical observation 5,457. Severe cases reduced by 215 as of 24 o'clock of March the 5th. According to data from provinces and the Xinjiang Production Construction Corp, remaining confirmed cases 23,784, including 5,737 severe cases cumulatively cured and discharged from hospitals, 53,726 cumulative deaths, 3,042. Cumulatively reported confirmed cases 80,552, remaining suspected cases 482. Cumulatively traced close contacts 670,854. Those still under medical observation 29,896. In Hubei province, new confirmed cases 126, all from Wuhan. Newly cured and discharged 1,487, including 1,038 in Wuhan. New deaths 29, including 23 in Wuhan. Remaining confirmed cases 22,695, including 20,115 in Wuhan. Severe cases 5,588, including 5,208 in Wuhan. Cumulatively cured and discharged from hospitals 41,966, including 27,354 in Wuhan. Cumulative deaths 2,931 in Hubei province, including 2,328 in Wuhan. Cumulatively confirmed cases 67,592, including 49,797 in Wuhan. New suspected cases 43, including 42 in Wuhan. Remaining suspected cases 285, including 232 in Wuhan. In the 24 hours on March the 5th, newly reported imported confirmed cases 16, 11 in Gansu, 4 in Beijing, and 1 in Shanghai. As of 24 o'clock March the 5th, cumulatively reported imported confirmed cases 36. And from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, cumulatively reported confirmed cases 158, including 104 in Hong Kong, 10 in Macau, and 44 in the Taiwan region. Apart from Hubei province, in other provinces, new confirmed cases 17, new suspected cases 59, new deaths 1. Severe cases were reduced by 15. Among the 17 new confirmed cases in other provinces, 16 were re-imported cases, alerting us that the importation risk is mounting. Alertness should be kept high. We need to deepen international collaboration, collaborate with the WHO and other countries in the information sharing so as to join hands for the prevention control of the epidemic. Now we'd like to take questions from the floor. You may ask your questions around today's topic, and please identify yourself before you address your question. Journalist from the second row on the left side, please. With Xinhua News Agency. The epidemic prevention control across the country takes a positive look. What are the efforts we've made in science and research fronts? And what is the contribution of science and research in the combating of the epidemic? I'd like to ask DG Wu Yuanbing to take the question. Science and research efforts have been on the concern of the public. On the 2nd of March, President Xi Jinping made a field visit to the science and research projects, and he has sung high praise for the dedication and contribution from the scientists and researchers. Since the outbreak of the epidemic, Ministry of Science and Technology has been collaborating with NHC and the CFDA, altogether 13 ministries and departments, and established the Science and Research Team and the Prevention and the Control Joint Mechanism. We focused on 5 areas. Led by Vice Premier Liu He, we've established subgroups on vaccines, drugs, diagnostic reagents, and animal sourcing, altogether 9 subgroups. 12 emergency projects were taken over. We've organized the top-notch scientists to work on these projects. In these efforts, we looked at the urgent needs from Wuhan and Hubei province. We focused on the combination with the treatment. We've combined traditional medicine and Western medicine. We've combined efforts from frontline and research efforts. We promoted the translation of scientific research results to clinical application. In this process, we've mobilized all communities. We gave play to the role of academies and universities. Meanwhile, we've opened bidding and tendering to solicit more private participation and societal participation. We've organized cross-disciplinary researches. Special science and research programs were dealt with scientifically, but in accordance with law. We've adopted an array of measures to accelerate the research and science progress, but we've been following the rules of science review and approval process to ensure rigorous quality control and risk management throughout the science and research efforts. After 1 month of efforts, we've seen some initial achievements. The disease can be diagnosed, can be prevented, and can be treated. 14 products have been through the review and approval and are now clinically used. The overall diagnostic level has improved, able to meet the national needs for testing. NAT tests and the antibody tests are used in combination to improve the testing results. Besides, the drugs that we've been researched have been used in clinical treatment, including chloroquine phosphates and some traditional Chinese medicines, convalescent plasma, and the plasma purification methods are also included into the treatment protocol.
We are actively promoting the high-end technologies like the stem cell to facilitate the treatment of the critically ill cases. And based on the clinical practices and the reality, we are constantly optimizing the treatment protocol, including the treatment therapies for critically ill cases and the severe cases. Also, we've conducted animal studies which are offering science-based evidences for the epidemic containment. And also, we are working on several fronts. AI has also been adopted just like the big data. Nationally, we can see a positive trend. However, we are still at a crucial stage against the epidemic, and this is also a critical moment for R&D. The current top priority is to rescue the lives, and for scientific development, we will continue to focus on the epicenter and the treatment of the severe cases. We will be joining in Wuhan and win the final battle against the epidemic. Also, we are advancing the pathological studies, providing strong scientific support to the clinical practices. Okay, let's continue on the right. On the front row, the first reporter, please. From CCTV. I have a question concerning the virus. Many scholars and researchers across the world say that the virus is mutating, and will this affect the development of the vaccine against the virus? We will have Dr. Zhou to answer the question. The mutation of the virus has been broadly covered and reported. However, we need more cases and more studies to further analyze the mutation. In China, for viral mutation and vaccine development, we've already made an overall arrangement and coordination. We find that the current mutation of the virus has not changed or affected the vaccine development. So we are working actively on several scientific projects to develop the appropriate vaccine. Okay, on the left, on the second row, the third reporter, lady reporter, please. Thank you. From Hong Kong Economic Herald, the public is very interested in the testing kit's efficiency and the sensitivity and the specificity. So what are the following R&D aspects in this regard? Okay, we will have yes, indeed, since the outbreak of the epidemic, there have been a lot of efforts made on the development of the testing kits. Previously, the priorities were mainly on the nucleic acid test, but now we have more priorities. First, for the nucleic acid testing kit, we've already initiated scientific projects to make the testing kits more sensitive. Now it can be accomplished within 90 minutes, and the sensitivity has been increased by 3 times. The second is the immune-based testing. This is for the throat swab, and within 30 minutes, we can know the result if there is any virus in the body of the suspected cases. And the third is antibody direction. We will see if there's IgG or IgM antibodies, and such tests can also be accomplished very quickly. These projects have already been initiated, and I'm confident that in the near future we will get some encouraging news. Up to now, a new group of emergency response R&D projects have been approved through the emergency channel by the NMPA. In these 7 testing kits projects for nucleic acid test, the latestly adopted testing kit can detect or can test 6 kinds of viruses at one time. It enjoys many advantages. First, it can quickly test the common respiratory viruses. And second, it is faster. So within 90 minutes, all the tests can be accomplished. And thirdly, in terms of clinical application, it can easily help the clinicians to do the virus identification, to find the confirmed cases, and also to know who are the influenza cases, so we can distinguish between the cross-infections. And also we have the antibody tests. There are also 2 testing kits in this regard, which have just been approved. So for the next step, we will continue to accelerate the R&D, and we wish to have more faster and more convenient and safer testing regions or kits, which can be applied in clinical treatment and diagnosis. Thank you. Let's continue. On the left, on the 5th row, the 3rd gentleman reporter, please. Thank you. From People's Daily, especially the Health Daily, previously, drugs like chloroquine are now being studied. And how about the latest R&D development? We will have Madam Sun to answer your question. Thank you very much for your question and your interest in the drug development. We fully understand people's expectation on drug development. We have 2 phases of drug development. The first is about safety, effectiveness, and accessibility. Up to now, we do find a group of candidate drugs which are already applied clinically to serve the clinical practices. Now they are in the 2nd phase of the R&D. In the 2nd phase of drug development, we are following President Xi's instruction to win the battle in Hubei and in Wuhan. The key is to ensure the mild cases can be treated and the critically ill cases can be prevented for death. So we are working on the drug development. Chloroquine has already become a clinical drug. Let me give you an example. The Tongji Hospital and the Union Hospital West part is the designated hospital to take in the critically ill cases. Now there are over 700 cases treated here, and more than 200 cases have received the chloroquine treatment. Up to now, no major adverse effects have been found yet. Also, for TCM, it is playing an irreplaceable role. According to our data, in Wuhan and in Hubei province as a whole, over 90% of the patients have received the TCM therapies. Clinical data have also proven that the integration of TCM and Western medicine is of very good effect.
And the tocilizumab has entered into the 7th edition, and it is already used in Wuhan for the treatment of severe patients. As of yesterday, 172 patients were on the treatment by tocilizumab. And convalescent plasma has been progress with the warm temperature from those well treated. The collection of plasma, the treatment by using convalescent plasma have seen major progress. China Biomedicine Group has completed 154 severe patients' treatment with convalescent plasma, and the stem cell clinical treatment is conducted in clinical trial in Beijing and Harbin. Several hospitals' clinical efficacy and safety have been proven. Multiple teams have been in Wuhan, and they will provide this multi-treatment. The artificial liver-derived stem cells are also on clinical treatment. The clinical experiences have shown that ventilator-supported days and ICU monitor time have shortened by big margin by providing the stem cell treatment. Down the road, our group will focus on clinical needs, enhance combination of traditional Chinese medicine with Western medicine. Antiviral treatment and immunoregulatory treatment will be combined. The previous research results will be translated into clinical therapies so as to save more patients. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the third row on the right side. Thank you. With Science and Technology Daily. Feature that once it is developed, it will help to improve the inoculation rate. Currently, we haven't seen any other international developer focusing on this. And the fifth technical pathway is on the DNA or NAT nucleic acid vaccine. Across the globe, there is no available human-used vaccine, and our research is concurrent with international research, and clinically we are a little bit ahead. But because we don't have any clinical experiences in developing this vaccine, so it is possible some overseas research institute may be ahead of us. We have deployed 2 teams to ensure parallel development, and one is working with international counterparts. The 2 teams have moved into animal test safety and efficacy study. So, in conclusion, among the 5 technical pathways, we have been following our previous schedule steadily, and it is predicted that in April, in compliance with national laws and regulations, it is expected that some vaccines may be used in clinical use or when urgency needs. But we know the virus is a new virus. Our understanding and exploration on the virus needs time. Similarly, the development for vaccine is the same. In the exploration of the vaccine, we have to go as we try. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist. On the 3rd row on the left side. Thank you. From Red Star News. Previously, there were media reports that because there were too many clinical trials, many patients under severe treatment were not enrolled in the clinical trials. What about the situation now? What is the clinical efficacy of Remdesivir? Is it possible for its wide and large-scale application clinically? I'd like to ask Madam Sun Yanrong from the Bio Center of Ministry of Science and Technology to take the question. Thank you for your question. In early February, Remdesivir was on clinical trial in 2 trials. One was for severe patients, the other was on mild and moderate cases. Double-blind clinical trials. Currently, we haven't received explicit results from the group because it was still blinded. So the information I've got is just as much as what you know. For the difficulty in enrollment, our understanding is that in this context, it may have something to do with the designing of the clinical trial. We are not informed of more detailed information, so just like any one of you, we expect to the disclosure of clinical research data from Remdesivir. We hope it is a highly valuable drug. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the 4th row on the right side, please. Thank you. With the CNR of CCTV Group, we've noticed that there are such reports saying that China Science and Technology University study has shown that tocilizumab shows great efficacy in cutting off the cytokine. Sorry, I'd like to ask my question again with the CNR of the CCTV Group. We've noticed that media reports have it that China Science and Technology University's study has shown that tocilizumab is effective in stopping the cytokine storm. Is there any latest progress on that? I'd like to ask academician Zhou Qi to take the question. Just as Ministry of Science and Technology official has mentioned, tocilizumab has entered into the 7th edition of the clinical treatment guidelines. Clinical studies are also ongoing. I'd like to explain why it came into being. We know cytokine storm. When the virus comes into the body, how does the virus fight? The immune response has been activated, such as T cells and macrophages may stimulate leukocytes and also cytokine cells. They will enroll more helpers to deal with the virus. However, for the coronavirus, COVID-19, it is a very strong virus, so it triggers very strong cytokine storm, and then it goes to the other extreme. When it is beyond its own control, it has triggered cytokine storm, which may lead to multi-organ failure or even threaten life. That's why University of Science and Technology have brought the equipment and entered into ICUs and did 30 immune system testing on 31 patients, and they've found a factor that has triggered cytokine storm.
And they are trying to find any drug that can block the interleukin. Then they find the tocilizumab. It's an available drug, and the initial studied 20 cases, 1 severe case and 19 critically ill cases. And within 2 weeks, the majority of the patients cured and discharged, but there is also one getting severe. So, guided by the relevant expert authorities, the tocilizumab is now applied clinically. We hope that this can be an effective drug. Thank you. Let's continue. On the right, on the 5th row, the 3rd gentleman, please. Thank you. From China Media Group, the new media. Just now, we talked about vaccine. We know that vaccine is used on ordinary people, but it's a fairly unique pharmaceutical product. It is of critical importance for prevention. So people are very interested in the vaccine development. So how about the current vaccine development? Can the safety be guaranteed? We will have Dr. Zheng to answer the question. Thank you for your question. Indeed, the vaccine is one of the most effective ways to prevent diseases. According to available data, with vaccine, more than 3 million preventable deaths can be avoided, and more than 70,000 children be prevented from disability. The efficacy and the safety of vaccine have been emphasized, just as President Xi Jinping says that vaccine is a unique product and it must be safe. So here you can find a notepad illustrating how we emphasize the safety and accessibility of vaccines. So from this chart, you can see from the candidate to the registration, there are a dozen of steps. Let me summarize them. The bottom 3 steps are the lab manufacturing, and then above you can find the animal studies, and then we will have the clinical study on human body, the safety and efficacy, and then we will have the manufacturing in the workshops, and also the relevant studies concerning efficacy, safety, and accessibility. All of the studies following very strict standards and technical requirements. Such standards can ensure the safety and efficacy in the manufacturing and also in the vaccine development. So how can we accelerate the vaccine development in this context, the epidemic context? Well, in common times, the steps are sequenced, one step after another. So this is a sequential process. We will have the stakeholders, but working in sequence. However, in this epidemic response, we have the rational parallel style. The R&D units are preparing the backups for the development, and they are trying to minimize the time of development, and they can, in some steps, they are trying to running in parallel the vaccine development. And also for animal studies, we can offer the study animals immediately, and this is the result of previous studies on the animals. And also we can work in parallel the drug review authorities and the drug manufacturers, following the relevant laws and the regulations. The approval and the review, approval and the manufacturing can to some extent be working in parallel. So we have achieved such parallel development. Furthermore, the government has already instructed that this is not a commercial product, and it will be used as a public good to safeguard people's health. And I think this is also an advantage of our system. And of course, all the current vaccine development are following the scientific protocols and standards. In the vaccine development, we have maintained communication with WHO and the relevant laboratories in the world. We are working closely together to develop the technical standards. I can assure you that all of the vaccine development steps are being pushed forward on a scientific basis, and all the steps are conducted with a strong guarantee for efficacy and safety. Let's continue. On the right, on the third row, the journalist in white. Thank you. From China Daily. The domestic epidemic situation is stabilizing, yet the international situation offers no room to be optimistic. So, in terms of international collaboration, what is China's plan and arrangement? We will have DG Wu to answer the question. Thank you for your question. Virus respects no borders. Since the outbreak of the epidemic, it has become a common challenge faced by the international community and the mankind as a whole. Just as you have said, it needs the global efforts. From the very start, we uphold the principle of being open and cooperative. China has maintained close communication with our counterparts of in related areas internationally, and we shared the gene sequence, which facilitates the international efforts for virus detection and virus and vaccine development. On February the 15th, WHO also dispatched experts to China to have a 9-day joint study, and the joint mission put forward suggestions for China's efforts against the epidemic. In our epidemic containment, we've constantly maintained communication with the international experts on the diagnosis and the treatment of the disease, and we have conducted various teleconferences and workshops or seminars. As far as I know, some of the projects have been matched to achieve the best result. Just as you mentioned, the epidemic is occurring or even emerging in several countries in the world. The international community finds it even more important to have international collaboration on the R&D of the relevant products. So China has already offered and provided testing kits to Pakistan and Iran, as well as some other countries.
We've also shared our treatment protocols with the international community. We are willing to collaborate with the WHO, other countries, for the experience sharing and be engaged in the drug development, vaccine development, and the launching of diagnostic test kits so as to contribute China's wisdom and protocols in the fight against the epidemic in the world. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the third row on the left side, please. Thank you. From the paper.cn. Experts have just now introduced the treatment therapy of convalescent plasma on severe patients. But there is also a comment that in certain cases, convalescent plasma is not applicable. So what are the bottlenecks for the use of convalescent plasma therapy? If a severe patient cannot receive convalescent plasma, are there any new breakthroughs that can help these severe patients? Is convalescent plasma of any significance for drug and vaccine development? I'd like to ask academician Zhou Qi to take the question. Convalescent plasma has been a wide scope of clinical application. Good efficacy has been proven, but as you've mentioned, there is no silver bullet. So there are limitations, the source and the use of convalescent plasma. But some data still cheers me. Since the 5th of February, when the convalescent plasma was entered into the clinical protocol, National Health Commission has organized the people to donate convalescent plasma. As of yesterday, 1,900 plus patients, recovered patients, have donated their convalescent plasma. And in Hubei province, 160,000 liters of convalescent plasma have been collected, providing great contribution and raw material and information for the development of later products. Good clinical efficacy has been observed in the use of convalescent plasma. The collecting groups are also preparing the immunoglobulin from the convalescent plasma. And these have provided us with a greater platform on which we can conduct further work to facilitate drug, antibody, immunoglobulin development for the treatment of severe patients. And down the road, as to the specific work plan, the Ministry of Science and Technology has initiated some projects. I forgot the last part of your question. Do you mind repeating that? On the vaccine development, Director Zheng has mentioned 5 technical pathways of vaccine development in parallel. There has been some coordinative efforts among the 5 technical pathways, but on most occasions they are independent. We hope there can be good achievements and progress so that we can report to you later. In the interest of time, we can take the last question. Journalist from the 4th row on the left side, please. With Guangming Daily. Some say Singapore has developed serum testing, which is more sensitive in the testing. Are we going to import the technology for the animal source and the virus source study? I'd like to ask academician Chen Qing to take the question. On the serum testing technology developed by Singapore, we have studied it in great details. What I want to comment is that the Singapore developed technology can be found in China's research efforts. Besides, the varieties, the forms, and the scope of our study are even bigger and better. For example, serum IgM, IgG antibody testing. We have we have the gold colloid that can be used on individual very fast, and a newly approved antibody test can be automatic chemical fluorescent test, which can be used on 40 plus patients within an hour. In the past decades, the technical reservoir for the diagnosis and treatment has been plentiful. We have developed such technology, similar technology. Singapore developed the technology, and it is awaiting approval. But what I have shared just now are the approved testing kits by CMDA, which can be quickly used in the clinical uses. So the available test kits can meet the needs of diagnosis. Thank you. Now we'd like to invite experts to give us some science knowledge. We care very much about the face mask usage, so I'd like to ask Yue Weihua to share with us some information on the use of surgical masks. Thank you. I'd like to share with you some popular science knowledge related to a surgical mask, which can be divided into 3 categories. The one I'm holding is a surgical mask with a structure that is known to all. It is of this shape, rectangle shape. And the second, it is again of a similar shape, but it's disposable. And third is of a higher protective level. So these are the 3 categories of medical masks. The protective mask has the highest protection level. On the 26th of January, NHC has issued guideline on the use of masks. The recommended scenario is in isolated wards, ICUs, and the fever clinics, so it should be used for the medical staff and replaced every 4 hours. If it is contaminated with the contamination on the surfaces, or the inner layer is moistened, then it should be disposed. The second, for the surgical masks, they should be used in some invasive operations to prevent against the fluid spray. So if you look at the exterior layer, it prevents against such liquids and fluid. And the disposable medical mask is used in ordinary places, so we suggest in workplaces and public facilities. We recommend the use of the surgical mask, and the disposable mask can be used in area where there is a low density of people. Manufacturers, in the product description, there are some explanations. For the general public, we suggest you look at the time length and the scenario of the usage. And you can dry it under the sun, expose it under the sunlight to extend the usage length to prevent against the white pollution or overuse of masks. And for the protective masks are for medical staff, and when they wear it, they have to seal it very closely, and it may suffocate breath on certain occasions for lengthened, elongated use. So we do not recommend overprotection. So this is my introduction. We'd like to thank the